he got himself invested in MacGyver and then watched the whole thing. And I was like, why are you still watching this? You don't even like it. And he's like, yeah, but I've invested in it and now I have to finish it. Like that's
like
what he
Lost.
does.
Fucking Lost. Fuck you, Lost.
Yeah. People got lost in that.
JJ, mother, whoever you are. I hate you. Wasted 7 years of my life.
Yeah, I didn't get connected to that one.
Hate you.
I didn't get connected to that one. Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Marie.
Okay.
Who is the highest paid female actor of this year?
They just released this.
Do you know?
Yes.
Well, who is it then?
Hold on. She knocked Jennifer Lawrence out of place.
Okay, so you saw the article. Okay.
I did see the article. It was Emma Stone.
There you go. She made $26 million in the last 12 months.
Well, which I was like, I like Emma Stone, so this is not a knock on her. But I honestly was like, and then I thought La La Land. But I couldn't believe that got her above Jennifer Lawrence.
Well, they say it's because she worked more. She released more over the year. She had a few different movies. So, I
think she's adorable.
Okay, yeah. I would fail, but try.
Did you
Oh, well, thanks for listening to Funkhauser Sitting Next to You. Today we're going to learn about a new friend of mine called Chuck McDermott. This is not Chuck McDermott in the background. This is Aaron Lewis from Stained. We're going to hear Chuck McDermott in a little bit here. He's a veteran musician. Played with a bunch of people. Linda Ronstadt, Lindsey Buckingham, Roger McGinn. He's been reviewed in the Rolling Stone and Billboard. Roseanne Cash called his music true and with such integrity. Chuck McDermott. That's what today's show's about.
I sit here in my home. I hope the Lord can come save my soul. 'Cause I'm a sinner to my core. I ask forgiveness and nothing.
Chuck McDermott has a new album out. It's called Gin and Rosewater, and you could get it right now at the linky link below.
All of the demons.
We'll get to a little conversation with him, the hippie, in moments.
'Cause I'm a sinner to my core. I ask forgiveness and nothing.
So, you're sitting there wondering what to do at some point in time. Well, I'm here to tell you that there are things to do, and unless you're not in Los Angeles. If you're not in Los Angeles, sorry, you're going to have to find other things to do. But according to Los Angeles... Ow! Oh, there's so much stuff to do. Ow! I don't know what you're doing August 26th, but you should be at Union Station in downtown LA at 8 o'clock. It's something called Artopia. And it's pretty awesome. Live music and DJs, performance artists, art installations, and live activations? What are activations? I don't even know. Oh, in addition to immersive art, the soiree will feature handcrafted cocktails, shaken and stirred by some of the city's best bartenders. Oh! are easy to get. artopia.laweekly.com. That is August 26th. There's something to do. I'll see you there. Yeah!
Everybody, 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 everybody,
Are you remembering to sweeten these up?
Heck yeah, buddy.
Okay.
Are you remembering to sweeten these up?
Why would I sweeten them up?
Well, I do my own sweetening, and you should do your own sweetening.
What are you talking about?
Well, you tell stories and stuff, You sweeten it up there. You've been sweetening it up. I'll do the filters. You do the stories. You ever seen Santana perform live?
No.
Oh, man. I met a beautiful girl at a bar last night. My friend hit on her, too.
Oh, you did?
She gave me her Facebook. And in today's world, what does that mean?
Facebook.
Probably just means she wants to
I'd
be
like
connected.
To keep in touch with you, but I would also like to keep you at a distance if I need to.
Just in case you're cool.
I don't want you to be able to make my phone ring.
I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the tie that binds, because you're mine. I walk the line. I find it very, very, very easy, so easy to be true. I find myself alone when each day is through. Oh yes, and I'll admit that I'm a fool for you, because you're mine. I walk the line.
Oh, one thing before we get into the Chuck McDermott interview. We're going to call him live in Boston, but just a quick reminder that Oregon Rain Soap is the best soap you can have for your soap. Yes, Oregon Rain Soap. It smells good, it feels good, it tastes good. Oregon Rain Soap, available at OregonRainSoap.com. Here's a little ditty from Chuck McDermott called Hold Back the Water.
Oh Lord, gotta hold back the water. Oh Lord, gotta hold back the water. Oh Lord, gotta hold back the water. Oh Lord, gotta hold back the water. I can see the Red Creek rise that swells before my eyes. I can see the Red Creek rise. There's no knowing yesterday. Thunder clouds are turning black, like a sack of coal on a devil's back. Thunder clouds are turning black. Hands from heaven reaching down. Oh Lord, gotta hold back the water. Oh Lord, gotta hold back the water.
I'm glad you called. How's it going? It's terrifying, to tell you the truth. I mean, we have had nothing but horizontal torrential rain for 2 days, and there's no place for this water to go. I mean, the street is a river, and with the wind, I mean, trees are down, branches are down. I've lost parts of the roof. And, you know, we've got that dam 2 miles upriver, and if that thing goes, you know, we're swimming out of here if we get out of here at all. And hold on a minute. Hey, Betty, Billy went out on the front porch.
Oh, this must be Chuck McDermott.
This is Chuck McDermott.
Oh, and he has an iPhone too, so it sounds amazing. Hi, Chuck.
How are you, Barry?
Good to talk to you. I was just listening to "Oh Lord, gotta hold back the water."
Sing it to me.
Oh Lord, and I've never been through a torrential rainstorm. Although I lived in Vegas once, and that happened like one time.
Yeah.
But man, I like calling your songs little ditties because they seem to be.
Well, they short stories, maybe. Is that like a little ditty?
Yeah, storytelling in its truest form. So, how did you get started in music? Let's go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay. Well, I spent the first 10 years of my life in Iowa. I was born in Dubuque, Iowa, and which is where my father was from. And when I was like 8 going on 9, I started begging for a guitar. And it was, inspired some by, things I was hearing on the radio as a kid and whatnot. And they finally...
Like what would you hear on the radio? Like,
there was a guitar instrumental called Apache that I found very, very intriguing. But, it being the Midwest, and this was in the late 50s, there was one AM radio station, and they...
Was it Coma? Was it KOMA?
No, it was KDTH.
Ooh, out of what? Where in Iowa?
Out of Dubuque.
Okay.
And the call letters, the KDTH is Dubuque Telegraph Herald, which was the name of the newspaper in town, too. But so they would play everything from Pat Boone to Bill Haley and the Comets to Hank Williams and Ernest Tubb. It was a real far-ranging thing. And I loved anything that had a guitar in it. And so my parents, when I turned 9, my parents finally relented. But being prudent Midwesterners, they did not buy me a guitar. They rented one from the local music store and signed me up for lessons. And if I stuck with it, I might one day get my own, which eventually I did. But so I started playing, learning chords on the guitar. And this being pre-Beatles, I turned to what a lot of people like me did, which was kind of the folk music catalog. So the Weaver's Songbook and the Kingston Trio records and things like that.
Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing.
And started to learn songs.
Johnny Cash? Was Johnny Cash later?
Yeah, he was later. So
Okay.
then when I was going on 11, we moved to Washington, D.C. My father was
Okay.
in government for a few years. And
It's like the opposite of the Beverly Hillbillies right there. You just go the other way.
Yeah, right. You head to the other coast.
Moving upstate.
That's right. But, and then, when the Beatles hit in 63, I mean, I was typical of everybody like me, I knew, meaning if you knew 3 chords, you found 3 other guys who knew 3 chords, and you learned when I saw her standing there.
Really? It happened in D.C. too, in 63, you say?
Yeah, late
Wow.
63.
So do you remember the first time you heard a Beatles song?
Yeah, it was just before their appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show, in the week or 2 leading up to that. D.C. was one of the first radio markets to start playing them in the United States. And so we would hear, those early releases. And then, I, like so many people, I was a prime demographic. I was a 13-year-old boy.
Oh, come on with that. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, when they went on Ed Sullivan and watched it at my friend's house. And just, nothing seemed cooler.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, she was just 17, and you know what I mean. And the way she looked was way beyond compare. So how could I dance with another? Oh, and I saw her standing there. Well, she looked at me, and I could see that before too long I'd fall in love with her. She wouldn't dance with another. Whoa, and I saw her standing there. Well, my heart went boom when I crossed that room, and I held her hand in mine. Well, we danced through the night, and we held each other tight, and before too long, I fell in love with her. Now I'll never dance with another. Whoa, and I saw her standing.
Now, Elvis was out already, of course, by then. And like my big sister was into Elvis, and I dug his music, his whole gestalt. But
Sure.
the Beatles were just, their energy and their look and the whole thing, and they were British, and it was just exotic and cool. And so literally ended up in a little band, a horrible band, shortly thereafter. But started learning tunes, and I ended up playing in bands all through high school. And
What did you play? What instrument?
I played guitar, and I was
The whole
usually
time? You found
rhythm
your-
guitar player. Yeah,
You found your axe. You stayed with it.
right, and it was an incredible time in music, and in DC there was a real strong soul and R&B and Motown tradition. So we saw live. I mean, we saw Four Tops, Temptations, Supremes.
I've been crying, ooh, 'cause I'm lonely for you. Smiles have all turned to tears, but tears won't wash away the fear that you never ever gonna return. To ease the fire that within me burns,
I saw James Brown live when I was like 15 years old at the Howard Theater in Washington. But the Hollies, Wilson Pickett.
Oh, the Hollies.
Band.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
You need
I
to
saw the
stop
Beatles.
now. Come on. You need to stop.
Lovin' Spoonful. You know, saw them all live.
My gosh.
And then
Those are good influences. If you put them all in like a big pot and you mix it all together, it comes out with something really interesting. See, like on my side of family, like my grandpa was a country singer. He moved here from Texas. He moved to California and he toured with Johnny Cash. So
no kidding.
My family tradition comes from like we walk the line.
Yeah.
But, my Hollywood side of things, everyone's like a Beatles fan. And it's very interesting to find someone that figured out a way to use both kind of influences because that's very rare.
Well, what happened to me was I, like I'm saying, I played in high school bands and towards the latter part of that, my junior, senior high school, I started singing with a couple guys and we really got we were doing Buffalo Springfield, Birds, Poco when that kind of popped. That the Birds infatuation led me to Graham Parsons. That led me to the Flying Burrito Brothers, and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And went off to college.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Yale.
Okay,
University.
all right.
And but I would meet one or two of these other guys.
Did you play music in Yale?
I did. I mean, yeah, all the time. I had a guitar in my hands all the time. And it was, I entered college fall of 1969, and we just the previous year buried Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had the Vietnam War.
Oh man, it was a similar time than it is right now.
Yeah,
when you were growing up,
eerily similar. Yeah, you really weren't sure if the wheels weren't going to come off.
Oh boy,
wagon, and through that, and I was now like when Crosby, Stills and Nash hit. That was like apocryphal.
Wait a minute, did you become a hippie? Is that what happened?
I did.
Oh, that's awesome.
I became a hippie, Barry.
Do you still have one of your outfits from that era? You were Washington D.C. I'm talking to a Washington D.C. hippie. You were like the one of the very few. I salute you, sort of.
Well, so I dropped out of college after my sophomore year.
Sure, there was bigger things going on. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Nixon was president. Crosby, Stills and Nash made more sense to me than Richard Nixon did. That's for sure. So, dropped out, and we had a band that was doing the kind of repertoire I just described. There two of us were starting to write songs and whatnot, but the covers we did were from that songbook. But I got very itchy to learn an idiom, really master an idiom instead of, doing this rather broad, unfocused pop music type thing. And I was in Boston at this point, living and working musically. And there was a strong blues scene. And as a guitarist, I really enjoyed playing the blues, but I was convincing no one I was a blues man. That I had already figured out.
Okay, yeah.
And true story. But one day, I with a couple of us, we went to see the movie 5 Easy Pieces, which had just come out with Jack Nicholson.
Okay,
and it had a really diverse, interesting soundtrack. But one song that kept running through it was Tammy Wynette singing "Stand by Your Man." And,
that's where that movie that song is from. That movie. Is that what you're saying?
It was a hit song for her on the country charts already, but they used it in the soundtrack very evocatively. And
oh boy!
And I just became it just kind of one of those moments kind of glued me to my seat. And at that time, the band all lived together in a band house, and we were broke as hell. But one of the things we do with our communally pooled money is we'd make periodic runs to the record store and stock up. We'd buy 10 or 15 LPs and bring them home. And that was your Spotify and your YouTube of the day. That's how you learned
social
songs.
Media right there.
Right. And so on this particular trip, I got a Hank Williams Greatest Hits album, an early Merle Haggard record, Tammy Wynette Greatest Hits, Bob Wilson's Texas
Oh, so you were influenced then. You just got heavily influenced by the twang.
And then I brought him back. I put on Hank, and I had this lightning strike moment where I said, I can do this. I can go from, hey, good looking, what you got cooking, to I'm so lonesome I could cry. I can do that.
Okay, all right.
And so I took the band in a sharp right turn into country music. And we started kind of including it little by little, but then it just became the whole repertoire. And a couple guys quit, and I hired a long-haired pedal steel guitar player, the only one in New England. And so I was off to the races with that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So that was a time, and then you had time with like big, like Fleetwood Mac type of people.
Yeah. So I rode that train.
Of course, there comes a point in your career where you just kind of get to sit back, and then things start happening to you, right?
Yeah. You know what was great about that, Barry, was I went on this country thing because I fell in love with it. It really spoke to me.
It really, it's a heartful thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. But if you find the right route in, there's a lot of terrible country music even from those days. But and I loved it. And then a thing happened during that time. This is the mid '70s, where the Waylon and Willie and Outlaw thing, and country music hit New York City. There was a famous club called the Lone Star Cafe, and we played there all the time. And Johnny Cash and June Carter were there one night, and
man.
Spent an
I
hour
wonder
and
if
a half
my
watching
grandpa could have been there. He said that he had one night with June Carter, and I'm not sure if it was during or after. I haven't done my research to the timeline, but there's some attachment. Maybe he was there, but oh man!
So we put out 2 albums in the name Chuck McDermott and Weed Straw, which is the name of the band, and we got a lot of critical support, Rolling Stone, New York Times, Billboard, all that. But I couldn't get signed in Nashville. I had hair down to my shoulders. I was a Ivy League college dropout based in Boston. So I only had about 5 contradictions in terms there for a Nashville guy.
Yeah.
But so I finally made a decision I had to try something else. So I moved. I got an offer from a new country label that was forming in LA to come out and be a recording artist for them and even do some production work. And so I folded down the band and was preparing to go. And of course, everybody has to have this story. The label folded about 2 weeks before I was supposed to start, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We all have a story like that, don't we?
Right.
On our way to the new job, it folds and falls apart. Now what do you do?
Right. I just went anyway.
Sure. You got to go. You just got to keep going. You'll figure it out later.
Right. So I got out there, and the great thing that happened is a mutual friend introduced me to one Jon Stewart. And John,
the comedian Jon Stewart from Comedy Central? Oh.
No, Jon Stewart with a John. But John had just come off a big hit called Gold. When the lights go down in the California town.
Down in the California town, and the people are in for the evening. I jump into my car and I throw in my guitar with my heart beating time with my breathing. And I'm driving over Canaan, singing to my soul. People out there turn the music into gold.
With Stevie Nicks singing on it and Lindsey Buckingham producing. But John had been in the Kingston Trio. So when I was a 10, 11, 12-year-old, he was about 8 years older than I was. He was a 21-year-old banjo player in the Kingston Trio. And John went on to, when they broke up in 67, he went on to what we would call today an Americana music career. He wrote these incredible albums through the 70s and 80s, one of the great American songwriters. He wrote Daydream Believer, which, big hit
come on.
and stuff.
Get out of town.
Yeah, but he's had songs covered by 200 different artists and all this jazz, and kind of a cult following, very loyal cult following of his own, but had a couple of very big hits right in 1980, 81. Because Lindsey Buckingham, who's my age, Lindsey grew up learning how to play guitar, listening to Kingston Trio records, really copying John's banjo playing style, but on the guitar. And a mutual friend of Lindsey's and John's knew that aspect of Lindsey's musical bio, and said to Lindsey, "You need to meet John Stewart. He's here in Los Angeles." So Lindsey's now, rumors had come out.
Oh, they loved doing that, didn't
star.
they? Like all these people, like connecting other people to other people. That's like how rock and roll came to be. It's like, well, I introduced this guy to this other guy, and then a magic thing happened. So it happened to you with Lindsey Buckingham.
Right. So Lindsey meets John, and Lindsey's kind of, oh God, John Stewart, I'm not worthy. And Lindsey's one of the biggest rock stars in the world at that point, but they become very fast friends. Lindsey produces these 2 albums for John, Stevie Nicks singing background vocals and stuff like this. And so right on the heels of that is when I met John, and we hit it off, and he started having me sing background vocals on these demos he was working on, and then he had me join his band, and then eventually he fired the band, and the 2 of us recorded and toured as a duo for about 5 years, and it was
Simon
great.
and Garfunkel.
It's like we were the country's loudest folk duo, and but we did, we shared bills with Bonnie Raitt and John Prine and Leo Kottke and Roger McGuinn, and
you were
for
in good
me,
company. That's great.
Yeah, it was just it was really great. And meanwhile, I was doing my own thing too. I had my own band, and they're the same guys who will be playing with me Sunday at McCabe's.
Oh, I'm going to be there.
All stayed and yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah, I'm bringing the makeup crew with me.
Can we have a few minutes with them before the show?
Oh, they'll take good care of you. Absolutely, I'm sure of it.
So I was
same band all these years, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
And yeah, we still
do you all live
play
nearby,
4 or
or
5
do
times
you get together?
I live in Boston, but they all live here in Los Angeles. So I'd find reason to get out here a few times a year, and we, continue to play. And,
so you find a balance between like your personal life and your work life. So like you turn it on and turn it off. That's very important.
Yeah, well, I did. So after in the mid, like 1984, 85, I was now married. We were expecting our first kid. I was writing what I'd call Americana stuff, like on the record you've got in your possession, shopping it to all the labels. I got a really good listen from everybody. And the feedback was, good songs, Chuck, good writing, but we're doing the Go-Go's, Flock of Seagulls. Right?
Yeah.
And the term Americana hadn't really been coined
our ship
yet,
has turned left for a while, and you are not invited.
Yeah,
so you go ahead and be in the underground country world where we don't care about you.
Right.
And we'll see you in 1992 for 3 months.
You know the movie. You've seen this movie. But so I we were expecting our first kid and stuff, and I got an offer from an old friend for something entirely different, but who is starting a nonprofit energy company back in Boston.
Here we go. Entrepreneurship.
To provide low-cost heating supplies to poor people in New England. And his name was Joe Kennedy. He was Robert Kennedy's oldest son, and we had been high school classmates and become good friends growing up. And
we were hippies together.
We were hippies together, too, to a certain extent. But so, here I was, about to become a father, and I'd been doing, playing the clubs and doing that for 14 years, and a part of me was ready to try something else. So I took this offer and went back and got going on this energy thing, and then Joe decided to run for Congress, and I very much by default became his campaign director. He shockingly won.
Wow. Oh, wow. So now you have a really nice office.
now we moved to Washington, D.C., and I'm chief of staff to a freshman congressman from Massachusetts.
From Massachusetts. Ooh, the pressure.
And that was actually very, very stimulating and really pretty rewarding. And so I was Joe's chief of staff for his first 2 terms, and then
What was your takeaway from the 2 terms? Like, okay, so after the first term, you guys, it was working. Like, and after the second term, as you're walking away from politics, what is your like number one takeaway from when you just kind of dipped your toes into politics for a while? What was your takeaway from that?
Well, it was there's something very exciting about what you're working on that day. It's kind of what they talk about on the news that night. The other thing that I really, really loved was the unlimited access to information that you had on any topic. There's an offshoot, there's a branch of the Library of Congress called the Congressional Research Service, which is this group of policy experts who are nonpartisan, but they have people to cover every area of public policy, whether, the defense authorization bill, foreign affairs, infrastructure, healthcare reform, you name it. And they're there to educate, inform, tutor members of Congress and their staffs. And so there just wasn't any issue that came up that you couldn't get this insane deep dive on a moment's notice. And I just loved that.
Wow.
So that was cool. It was kind of a burnout job, though, because Joe and I were childhood friends, and a congressman's, you surrender your life. You're basically on duty all the time, especially in your first couple terms, and you have to be attentive as always to your constituents back home. And there's a demanding job, and you're in D.C. and all this. And I now had 2 young children and a wife who had married a guitar player.
Oh,
who's now in
boy.
Washington.
What was her job? What did she do while you were playing?
When I was twanging, she worked actually at Lucasfilm and then at CAA.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
well, you
William
married
Morris
up then,
Agency.
didn't you?
Yeah,
There you go.
So
you have 2 kids real quick. Now you're a daddy. Now you're raising kids. Did you raise them with music? Like what was their childhood like?
their formative years were in Washington, D.C. We stayed for 12 years. I was on the Hill for 4. And then I worked I did environmental policy for a big environmental services company for 8. And so they had those 12 years in D.C.
Oh, man, you had a really big house in D.C. That's awesome.
Well, it wasn't that big, but we moved back to Boston and in 98, and with some of my other former colleagues from this energy company and some other people, we started a fund to invest in sustainability and clean technology startups. And that's what I've been doing.
What does that mean? Like non-oil, non-gas?
Yeah. So, solar, wind, energy efficiency, water efficiency,
so
energy
you're making
storage.
Solar panels like cheaper to buy.
Yeah. We're investing in companies that would be, have breakthrough technologies. And
that's what we're waiting for is solar panels, cheaper to buy.
Yeah. They're getting cheaper all the time. In the time I've been at this, they've gotten drastically cheaper. LED lighting technology. So all this stuff, electric vehicles.
Wow. Just like the hippie in you just comes out. You can't help it.
Well, it's really been fun. I mean, just the serendipity of life has allowed me to, again, dig pretty deeply on these things, and I care about them all. But we're at the end of the life of these funds we've raised, and I can now turn to do whatever I want to do with myself.
Well, then what do you want to do with yourself? Like you're playing music, going around the country. Yeah. Are you touring?
Right. I am. Most of it's in the New England area and the kind of eastern seaboard, but I do have, I lived out here and I've got musical friends out here, and some people still remember the work I did.
Well, you're the type of guy that people would
Stewart.
travel to you to see, so it doesn't matter where you play as long as you're out there playing.
Well, it's really been gratifying. You know, I worked on the album, the CD You've Got, a good part of last year with some really fabulous musicians and a wonderful
Did you drink a lot of gin and rose water while you were doing it? Is that why you
I
call it
was
that?
prudent in all ways in executing on this.
Okay,
But
fine.
gin and rose water is my fiance's perfume.
Fiance? What's the deal with that? When are you going to tie the knot there? You know, you
on
only
New
have
Year's
7
Eve.
years. Oh, New Year's Eve? Where? Where are you going to do it?
Seattle, which is where she's from.
Oh, you're a genius, man. Everything that you do. Okay, so one last question before we
Yeah.
go, because I want to play a
Yeah.
bunch of your music too. But
Oh, great.
what's your favorite song on the album?
Well, that's a hard one.
I
you're
know
like-
it's the hardest question you can answer right now.
right. Like the children of Lake Wobegon, I think they're all above average, Barry. No, about
Well, yeah, but which one should
No,
we click
well,
on? Because we only have 4 minutes.
Okay. You can play "Hold Back the Water" or
Mhm.
"Girl from St. Lucie."
Girl from St. Lucie. Okay, I'm going to go in cold with that one.
Okay,
What's that
all right.
one about?
It's really about my mother, to be honest, the Depression era woman who really had a lot of hardship in her life, but she'd never tell you that. She always thought things were going to be fine.
Did she support you in all of your hippiness?
She did. It frightened my parents when I dropped out of college, and they had humble Midwestern upbringings and whatnot, and couldn't believe that I was walking away from an Ivy League education. But they came to support it because they knew that it's what I loved, and I give them a lot of credit for that.
She sang every morning at Mass with the men from St. Lucie. Her voice rang as clear as the rain, and it mimicked her beauty. Her hair shone as red as a flame. Every boy whispered her name. Wanted to walk to the game with the girl from St. Lucie. She grew up a fatherless child, but she never felt lonely. The laughter pealed playful and wild from the girls' dormitory. While praising the incarnate word, the Irish nuns gathered their skirts, dancing the jig that delighted the girl from St. Lucie. And she said, "It's all right now, it's all right now, no matter what night brings, morning holds everything, everything, everything." That night at the Normandy Inn sat the man from Piasta. He asked for her hand and he promised his love would not cost her. He spoke of a home in Dubuque and the ring that he offered as proof meant life would be much shorter-lived with the girl from St. Lucie. They became husband and wife in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They loaded their worldly possessions in his blue Impala. They set off upon their own track. They never once thought to look back. Traveling 10 million miles from the steps of St. Lucie. She
said it's all right now. It's all right now. No matter what night brings, morning holds everything, everything, everything. Gather this fine August day at New Mellery Abbey. A tombstone upon her fresh grave, lying next to our daddy. With hearts reaching up to the sky, we know parts of us never die. Just pray for the day we meet up with the girl from St. Lucie. She says it's all right now. It's all right now. No matter what night brings, morning holds everything, everything. Everything.